This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. And the first thing is, let me start with an interesting startup. We have Boba Fett in his back to tank, but it begins to flash back. We see a few things, including him looking at his father's head. We also get to see a little bit of Camino, which is either episode 2 footage or they are going to have more content on Camino, possibly with Django. Boba then is able to escape from the Sarlacc pit. He passes out after, and then his armor is stolen by Jawas, and he is kidnapped by Tusken Raiders. He then tries to escape, but is recaptured after the Rodian he is kept with, and basically goes in, tells on him, and I'm wondering why he did that. We won't really know since, well, he is dead. Boba Fett awakes from one of his dreams inside of the Bacta and goes to be paid tribute by many of the different people of Tatooine. He is paid tribute by one of his former bosses and a few other criminals, but the mayor of Tatooine, or of one of the cities, goes and sends just one of his assistants to Boba and gives him nothing but demands tribute from him. Boba, finding this ridiculous, only sends the guy back with his life, and this will definitely cause conflict. He then goes to be with one of the clubs that he now owns and meets the leader. He is paid tribute by her, but then is attacked by many of the soldiers of an unknown gang. Him and Fennec are able to fend them off with the two Gamorreans that his lives he spared. Fennec was able to hunt down some of the men and captured one of them, so Boba can interrogate him. But Boba is pretty injured, taken back to his back to tank, where he goes back into his dreams. Boba is taken to find water inside of stones and is taken by a young child Tusken Raider. He then goes and gets attacked by a monster which kills the Rodian, but he is able to kill the monster, and the young Tusken Raider brings back the head in victory, and now Boba Fett is being treated far better since he is now a hero to the Tusken Raiders since he was able to kill this monster. Fennec Shand returns the assassin that she spared to the palace of Boba Fett, and the assassin is brought before Boba Fett. Boba looks at him and tries to interrogate him, but the assassin refuses to say anything. So Fennec, knowing how to manipulate this person, drops him into the Rancor pit and says that they will feed him to the Rancor. Terrified, the assassin says that he was hired by the mayor, and Boba and the rest of his men go to confront the mayor. After a humorous encounter with the reception desk, Boba Fett storms into the mayor's office and begins to threaten him, wondering why an assassin was sent after him. But the mayor simply has the assassin killed, saying that they are not supposed to be working outside of Nal Hutta in Hutt space, and since Tatooine is no longer ruled by Jabba, that basically means that it's not Hutt space anymore. And this leads to Boba now pointing the mayor saying, why would he believe him? And the mayor just offers him payment for bringing in this bounty, although Boba says he is not a bounty hunter anymore. He will accept the payment as the tribute that the mayor should have gave him, and now the mayor offers one last piece of advice. He sends him back to the bar that Boba visited, telling him to go there and see how it's hard to run a crime organization. After arriving, Boba quickly learns that the twins, who are relatives of Jabba the Hutt, have come and tried to lay claim to Jabba's territories. They have official documents and everything, but Boba says that it does not matter, this is his land, and he goes and threatens the other Hutts, but not wishing for conflict, at least yet. The twins turn and leave after revealing that they have the bounty hunter and gladiator Black Crescent with them. Now Boba returns to his palace and once again goes into the Bacta to heal his wounds as he once again falls into a dream. Boba is being trained by the Tuscans and is learning their ways. He has learned how to communicate with them and is being accepted into the tribe. He learns both combat and the history of Tatooine, but soon they're attacked by a train of pikes, and Boba, to prove his worth, agrees to go and take down the train. And Boba shows that he is an honorable man by going into the town of Anchorhead and taking down a biker gang, stealing their bikes, but not trying to escape the planet because he easily could have done that from the town, but he decides not to. He shows his loyalty and how honorable he is by returning and helping the Tuscans go and take down this train. After training them how to ride on speeder bikes, they go and are able to take down the train. Boba is then able to negotiate with the leader of the Pikes and tells them that they must now pay tribute to the Tuscans to be able to go through their land. And finally, Boba is put onto an odd vision quest to go and find a stick for himself to make a gaffy stick. He is then dressed in Tuscan robes and is truly accepted as a member of the Tuscan Raiders. Boba is visited by one of the people who works for him, and he's reported that a gang of children wearing cybernetic enhancements have been stealing water from him. Boba agrees to help because he does not have much respect. He goes and hires these kids since they're stealing because they do not have jobs, and also pays off the man and demands him to lower the water prices since it is ridiculous how much he is charging for water. Boba now returns to his palace and returns to his Bacta tank, where he once again goes into a dream. For now he remembers him trying to work out a deal between the Pikes and the Tuscans, but the Pikes refuse until he takes out a gang. But once he returns, the gang has already wiped out all the Tuscans. Now Boba Fett is woken up by Black Chrysanthemum attacking him, and with the help of the new people he's hired and Fennec, he's able to knock Chrysanthemum into the Rancor pit, and they have captured him. Now the Hutts have returned through the twins, and they say that they've brought Boba a gift, a Rancor, and they also go and explain that they're leaving Tatooine because the mayor has promised Jabba's former territory to another group. And once they leave, Boba releases Chrysanthemum and takes the Rancor in. Boba then goes to take care of the Rancor as he has a meeting with the mayor set up. And after having the Rancor start to bond with him, Boba goes to meet with the mayor, but the Twi'lek that works for him tries to get Boba to leave. Once he realizes Boba is serious, he tries to run. Boba and the kids he's recently recruited track down the Twi'lek, though, and they are able to get the information out of him that he is working with the Pikes and that they are trying to claim all of Jabba's territory. Boba then returns and gets ready for war to keep the land he has claimed. Boba Fett once again flashes back to his time on Tatooine after escaping the Sarlacc pit, and now he travels the Dune Sea looking for a way to get his ship, Slave One, back. He no longer has the Tusken since they have been killed off, and sees no way to be able to get into the former Jabba's palace, which at the moment unknown to him is now owned by Bib Fortuna, and he is looking for a way to break in and be able to get his ship, and not really knowing what to do, he goes and takes a rest, but sees multiple flares being shot up into the sky, and this piques his curiosity as he goes to see what happens, as he finds the nearly dead body of Fennec Shand laying in the sand because she was shot by Toro Callahan after she told him of the bounty on Din Djarin and Grogu, as seen in the first season of The Mandalorian. Boba now rushes her on his bantha to Mos Eisley, where he is able to get surgery done on her and have many robotics replace the organs that were destroyed by the blaster shot. And now she is in his debt and agrees to help him steal back Slave One. And after sneaking into the palace, they are able to get into Slave One and escape. But now Boba Fett goes to settle some of the debts and get some revenge for things that happened, including killing off every member of the biker gang that wiped out the Tuskens, and then seeing if he can find his armor in the Sarlacc. But the Sarlacc is able to grab onto Slave One, and the only reason they're able to escape is because a seismic charge is dropped into the Sarlacc and detonated. Boba, thinking at least for now he can't find his armor, goes and prepares to plan to take over the land from Bib Fortuna. And once he does learn where his armor is and is able to get it back, Boba returns and kills Fortuna, once again shown in The Mandalorian Season 2. And finally being returned from the Bacta, he is told that his wounds have been completely healed, and he does not need to use the Bacta tank at all, at least for these injuries, and Boba goes and prepares to go and meet with the criminal empire and begin to build up his forces so he can go and take on the Pikes. He first goes to recruit Black Chrysanthemum, who is in the bar, and after Chrysanthemum rips off a Transocean's arm, he returns to the palace and meets with the heads of the other families and convinces them to all stay neutral, at the very least while he goes and wipes out the Pikes, so they do not take his territory. And once this is done, they will be able to go and prosper together. And now Boba Fett, sending them off, finally begins to talk to Fennec as they begin to discuss their plans. And Boba knows that he needs to hire more people, and having the credits to do so, they begin to wonder who they should hire as some familiar music plays. After collecting a bounty and bringing the head so we can learn where the new Mandalorian covert is, Din Djarin goes and meets up with the armorer and Pez Vizsla, the only two survivors from the slaughter on Navarro. And once there, he's treated for a wound he got when he accidentally hit himself with a dark saber. But he also goes and begins to train with the dark saber to learn how to use it. He's also told what happened on Mandalore in the Night of a Thousand Tears. He's also told a brief history of the dark saber, and his Beskar spear is melted down into something that he will give to Grogu. And then, once that all happens, and he is training, Pez Vizsla sees that he is not good with the weapon, and wanting the blade for himself, since it is also an heirloom of his house, he challenges Din Djarin to a duel, and this ends up with Din Djarin winning the duel and keeping the claim to the Darksaber. But at this point, he is asked if he's ever removed his helmet, and he tells the truth. He has now been banished from this clan of Mandalorians, and is told the only way that he'll be able to seek redemption for this is to go to the caverns under the Mayans and Mandalore. But since they have been destroyed, he realizes it is now hopeless, and he now goes out to just get a new ship, where he lands on Tatooine and meets up with Pelimoto, who gave the impression that she found a new Razor Crest, but she's actually found an old N1 Naboo starfighter, so Dinjar could use. And initially, he does reject the ship, saying he does not want it, but she convinces him to at least wait for it to be finished, and then they will talk about it. And after the ship is finished, Jaren does fall in love with the ship and decides to take it for a test drive. After flying throughout Tatooine and space, he is pulled over by the New Republic since he flew too close to another ship. And from this, he is let go with a warning, even though they begin to suspect who he is. He flies off, but the New Republic officers decide not to report this because they don't want to do the paperwork. And then he returns to the planet, landing back in Moto's hangar, and there he is contacted by Fennec Shand, who wants him to be muscle for a Boba Fett, and Joran does agree. He says he'll do it for free as long as they help him find someone first. Cub Vanth has to deal with some pikes that are trying to trade spice outside of his town of Mos Pelgo, and he is able to shoot down most of the pikes and sends one back to tell their bosses that this territory is off limits for them, and if anyone else returns, they will be taken out by him. And once they leave, we then cut away to an unknown world where Din Djarin lands his starfighter so he can go and meet with Grogu and bring him the gift he had the armorer make for him. And as he exits his ship, he is led by R2D2 to a building that is under construction by droids who also construct a bench for him to wait on, and R2D2 does shut down and waits for someone to come, but it is not Luke and Grogu who are discovering what happened to Grogu during Order 66, since he suppressed the memories of that dark day. It is actually Ahsoka Tano, who has met up with the son of her former master, most likely to connect with him and help him with his Jedi training, both of himself and of Grogu. And Ahsoka goes and talks to Din Djarin, telling him that he should not be here, and that if Grogu sees him again, things will just be made worse, and that the real reason he is here is for him and not for Grogu. She does agree to give the gift to Grogu, and Din Djarin leaves. But at the same time, Grogu watches as the ship flies away, although he is not certain it is the man he sees as a father. He most likely suspects that it's him, but that is not important at the moment. He continues his training with Luke as he practices many skills, and when he does begin to have problems, Luke goes to teach him more of the Force and of his species, saying that he knew another Jedi of the species named Yoda, and once he does that, Luke goes back and helps Grogu train on a log. At the same time, Ahsoka comes up to him and begins to talk to him as they talk about the training of Grogu and his attachment to the Mandalorian. Ahsoka does give the gift to Luke to give to Grogu, and she says that she does have to go. Luke does wonder if he will see her again. She says she does not know, but also remarks how he is very similar to his father and leaves. Luke then goes to collect Grogu and go back to his still under construction Jedi Temple, and we once again cut back to Tatooine, where Din Djarin does land and meet with Boba Fett and begin to make a plan. And they know that although they do have some very experienced warriors, with Din Djarin and Black Chrysanthemum being there, they will need an army to take on the Pikes. And Din Djarin offers up help and goes to the town of Mos Pelgo to meet with Cobb Vanth and see if he can get help from them. He lands his new starfighter there, and after the deputy tries to get him to move it, Cobb Vanth ignores it and says that it is fine, and catches up with his old friend. And after Din Djarin does ask for help, Cobb Vanth is hesitant, but says he will consider it, and gets ready to call a town meeting. But just moments later, a man walks in, not specifically a man, but a Duros bounty hunter, who is clearly Cad Bane. And he goes up to Cobb Vanth and begins to try to negotiate with him, telling him that his employers will go and match what Boba Fett would offer, and all they have to do is stay out of their way. But Cobb Vanth definitely sees him as a threat and refuses to go and help them. And this angers Cad Bane, who goes and guns down both Vanth and his deputy. He leaves the newly named Freetown, telling them his employer will get their way. And this begins with Boba Fett's cantina being bombed by some of the Pikes. And finally, we return to Luke's Jedi Temple, where he offers Grogu a choice. He brings out the Beskar armor that the Mandalorian brought him, but also he brings out the lightsaber that once belonged to Yoda and gives him a choice for him to return to the Mandalorian and not become a Jedi, or to reject the ways of the Mandalorian and become a Jedi. Boba Fett visits the destroyed club of his and looks through the ruins. He begins to try and figure out what to do. He begins to talk with the mods, and they want to stay in Mos Espa, not wanting to abandon the people, and they are able to convince Boba that he should stay. And at the same time, Cad Bane returns and meets up with the Pikes, and when with the Pikes, they begin to talk, and he says that he believes he has taken care of the people of Freetown, and they will not become a threat anymore, and he knows how to deal with Boba Fett. Returning, we see Grogu returning in the X-Wing of Luke Skywalker, which lands in Petimoto's shop, and Grogu goes and begins to reunite with the local shop owner. As R2 says that he has to leave. Returning to Mos Espa, Boba sends his forces out to survey the area as they wait for the forces of Freetown to arrive. He sends the Gamorreans, Chrysanthemum, and the mods to different parts of the town, but is then visited by Cad Bane. Boba and Bane go and begin to talk, and Bane reveals to Boba that the Pikes were the ones who went and killed all the Tuskens, and it was not the biker gang he took out. Boba takes this personally and wants to finish things with Bane right there, but Bennett convinces him that that would be a bad idea and he'd be acting far too rashly. Boba agrees and goes back in, but at the same time, the Pike forces begin to attack his, wounding some of the mods, killing the two Gamorreans, and wounding Chrysanthemum, who has been overrun by Trandoshans. The truce has been broken, and Boba Fett's forces are in retreat. Boba now decides that he will stand his ground and wait as forces of the Pikes are sent after him. The mayor's majordomo, wanting to get out of this, asks if he can negotiate peace, and Boba Fett writes his terms down as the domo goes out. He reads them off where it says Boba will give the Pikes nothing and they must leave Tatooine. Scared, the domo tries to escape and is saved by both Boba and Mando, who go and begin to take out Pike forces, but they are being overrun. There are far too many enemies, and at the last moment the people of Freetown arrive to save them. And this is the moment where they say they had to come to help because they couldn't let what happened to Cobb Vanth stand, and they are able to get victory, but the victory is short-lived as some massive droids come in with droideka-like shields, and this puts our heroes at a great disadvantage. They begin to open fire on them and pin them down. Both Boba and Mando decide to hold off the forces as the rest of their men try to escape, and They realize this is useless as a rocket if Boba doesn't do any damage at all. So they go and begin to battle and are holding the forces off. Realizing they're doomed, Boba asks Mando to hold him off for a little more time and flies off. And while this happens, Mando is trying to hold them off but isn't doing it well. Polimoto arrives and Mando begins to send her away, wondering why she's here, and once he sees Grogu, the fear in Mando does jump up because he does not want him to be here since this is a war zone. But still, Din goes and escapes with her, but their speeder is shut down, and when all hope seems lost, Boba Fett arrives with a Rancor and is able to destroy one of the droids as he goes off to help his forces who have been pinned down by using the Rancor to take out the other one. And at this moment, hope seems to have returned, but Cad Bane goes and attacks, and now they are in a real bad position since Boba has been knocked off the Rancor, who is going off on a rampage of its own, and Boba has to fight Cad Bane in a one-on-one duel. They first go back over the past, saying how they do have history, and Cad Bane says that Boba has become soft, but Boba says that they all do with age, and they do begin to fight. Cad Bane is able to shoot Boba down before Boba could take a shot, being the faster shot, but they do get into a duel, and Cad Bane does have Boba dead to rights, but begins a small monologue which gives Boba enough time to use his gaffy stick to take out Cad Bane and seemingly kill the bounty hunter. Now, their forces are able to push back the ones of the Pikes, and victory seems guaranteed. Grogu is able to save Din Djarin from the Rancor, who nearly ate him, and finally Fennec Shand, who was sent off earlier, is able to take out the leaders of the many syndicates, taking out the head of the Pikes, the mayor, and the heads of the three families. They are left with an ultimate victory on their hands, and the people of Tatooine are grateful to Boba, who has managed to free them, and they pay tribute to him in the streets, bowing to him as they begin to rebuild their town. Finally, we see Mando flying away with Grogu, and that Cobb Vanth is being healed by Boba Fett and the mods to be brought back after nearly being killed by Cad Bane. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.